All right, guys, welcome back to Comics Only, the only podcast where comedians talk about comedy with other comedians.
One of the kinds.
Yeah, my guest today is writer, comedian, and winner of the 2023 Funniest Person in the Universe contest, Adam Dominguez.
Mazel tov. I only say mazel tov in case there's industry.
That's quite a title, dude. Funniest comic in the universe.
The amount of hazing I've been getting when it got advertised, and the amount of people who hit me with the old 2020. I didn't vote for you. Not my comedian. It was a lot of that. But then
winning a contest like that kind of gets you bullied in a weird way.
Yeah. I mean,
because everybody's bitter that they didn't win it.
Look, I am not an advocate for competitions. Comedy is not a competition. I think comedy is subjective. I think whatever style of comedy you have, there's a fan base. But as the winner of this competition,
as the funniest comic in the universe,
look, here's okay. All right, fine. If we're gonna have comedians who are gonna listen to this, do competitions and plan on never winning.
Yeah,
right.
Honestly, I was in that competition. I had one of the best sets of my life. Did not advance.
Yeah, it's you're not gonna do it. I think one of the judges. I'm not calling him out because we're friends, but he was one of the. We're not like friends. Like I know he wasn't because he didn't vote for me. He was one of the clean comics.
Oh sure.
I think he runs the Clean Comedy Showcase, and I'm not a clean comic.
Right.
I'm so far detached.
And you think he was like...
And I knew for a fact he was just like, no, this is really filthy. This is kind of
this. I'm not going to vote for this.
We can do somebody who's working harder.
Even like, I wish competitions could just be like, who produced the most laughs? That would be a lot more fun.
I think...
And we kind of all know, like a buddy of mine, a good friend of mine advanced in the round that I didn't. And afterwards, I was telling him, he was like, why do I feel weird right now? I was like, because I did better than you.
Yeah. I mean, comics, you should listen to each other, and then you'll be like, oh, yeah, that guy had a great set. That guy had there was a comic who once told me that the whole entire comedy game is completely unfair. And then they name dropped a comic who was actually at Stir Crazy last week. And he said, it's not fair because when you find out that guy isn't famous and he's not a household name, then this is all built against you. The name was Gabriel Rutledge. You should.
Gabe's funny as hell, dude.
Gabriel Rutledge, one of the smartest writers ever. And the amount of people who are like, that's the guy. That's the guy who should have been the famous guy. But
it's just how it goes in this shit, dude.
Yep, that's just that's fucking Cat Williams bringing it all over again.
This is the new Club Shay Shay.
Oh my god. I think I've been in the game long enough where I stopped.
How long have you been doing comedy?
So I'm gonna tell you 13 years, but I'll be honest with you, I don't remember.
Sure, but about 13 years.
Yeah. I know the first earliest poster I was ever tagged in, or the first open mic where I started in El Paso, Texas, where there really wasn't a scene.
Sure.
And so it was one open mic spot on a Tuesday at a rowdy bar called Coconuts.
Yeah.
The host would go up there and do like an hour. And then he would bring up comedians. And over there, comedians were doing 10-minute sets. So there'd be like 9,
get a lot of reps then.
Just going in there, 10-minute sets. And they were just, here's the weird part, packed audiences. Just always filled with the worst comedians, especially at our skill level at that time.
I imagine there was a golden era for comedy before the internet was really popping.
Yeah.
And people were still going like out to get their entertainment.
Oh,
like,
it was so good.
Think about baseball used to be like a popular sport. Like people looked forward to going out and watching baseball for 4 hours on a Sunday.
And now I like going to baseball games, but not for the teams. I go for the drinking. I go for the experience.
Because you have an excuse to drink for 4 hours
But it's like
at 1 on a Sunday.
Like you ever turn around like, hey, do you guys want to go out and get drunk? And being like, oh, what about a baseball game?
Yeah, that sounds fun.
I'm doing the same thing. I think that's just it. 13 years ago. It was open mic comedy, and it was the same players who would go over there and do the same stuff. And I love the guys I got started with, and to see how far they've grown past a decade. Some of them fell off, some of them are not with us anymore. Some of us are just doing different things.
Dude, I imagine doing comedy for 10 years must be so fucking hard. I'm coming up on 5, and it's like tough on my mental health, for real.
I think, you know, I don't know what helps? Apathy.
Yeah, of course.
Oh
yeah,
my
it helps
God.
so much, dude.
I stopped caring.
Yeah, that's what comedy is. Yeah.
And I think it's this weird, like, okay, hey, if all you see around you is shit, it's probably because your head's up your ass, right?
Straight up.
So it turns into like, you know what? Fuck this. If I'm getting booked, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna, you know, it's gonna be a fucking experience and shit. I think a lot of comics are so worried and be honest, when 5, 6, what year is it? What day is it? There was when, like, same thing with the internet. There were so many Twitter comedians
Yes.
that came out who were experts at the 140 characters,
Right.
who were murderers at that.
Yeah, but stage, dude.
Yeah, that's a completely different game.
I talk about that a lot with people. The difference between being funny in the moment and being funny when you're on stage and the lights are on you and all the expectation is on you to be funny. It's a different beast.
A comic better than me once told me that stand-up comedy is the perfect blend of writing and performance.
Yes.
Right? So you could be an expert writer and be a shit performer.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
Or you can be the ones who are just all sing-song, dancey, you know, as all like screaming and then have nothing to say.
Right.
You know? And so if you find the comedians who are able to blend the two well, then that's what you can kind of bank. You know, those are the ones, hey, that guy's going to have longevity. Yeah. And, you know, within your first, I'm not going to lie, it took me about 7 years for me to be like, oh, all right, that's the style we're going to go with. We're going to go with that.
Sure, yeah, who knows if I'm even there yet. I remember a friend of mine told me, he's like, don't worry about anything. It takes like 8 years to find your voice in comedy.
Yeah.
So like, just go up and have fun.
Oh,
that's like the best advice for rookies. Just trying to have fun. If it's not fun and you're worried about like the business of comedy your first like year or two in, like
you're not. Yeah, it's not. We don't give a shit. The comics that I book, I'll try to get them before that bitterness hits. You know, because they're great on a show, and I love to put them up with, you know, those bitter comics, the ones who have been doing it 8, 9, 10, 15 years, who had the same 15, 20, 30-minute set, you know, forever, and then you bring in that one young comic, and they're up there. And they're just blowing them out of the water because you get to see how much they've fallen in love with this.
Yeah.
You know, this is kind of hey, if you're going to say that, oh, you're in a relationship with comedy. Yeah, sometimes you need to fall in love with this bitch again. So,
yeah. I mean, every now and then I'll take 2-3 nights off just so I'm excited to do a set.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. I think
go camping or something.
That's one of the weirder things. Whenever, you know, I was in Austin. We toured through Texas last year, and we did a week in Austin, and a few of my friends, they signed up for Kill Tony, and one of them got called up on it too. Yeah. And it's funny because you know, upon rewatching Kill Tony, how many comedians when they ask them like, so what do you do? What are your hobbies? What do you do after this? And every one of them's like, comedy.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's kind of annoying, those people. And you're like, don't you care about anything?
It's like, how are you planning on relating to people who are living their lives if you're not living your fucking life?
Yeah. So to be honest, like when people ask me my hobby, I'm like, hang out with my dog. Does that count? I watch the NBA a lot.
I'm into fighting video games.
Hell yeah.
Like I'm huge on like Street Fighter and new Tekken 8's coming out. I'm so big on that. I'm so big on I like following their live streamers. I'm definitely an old frog where I'm like, you know, I'm in my late 30s and I'm watching these early 21-year-olds, you know, jump up on live streams and do fucking crazy shit and just talking and being off the cuff. And I think that's what kind of got me into my voice.
Sure.
Was during 2020 when I started really getting into watching Twitch, and I started getting into more YouTube live streams and stuff. And then I saw a couple streamers, met a few streamers, and then just asked them, like, how can you be so fucking conversational?
Right.
You know, does it feels
practice?
Like it's just that. And it was just like, I'm screaming into the ether.
Yeah.
And then whatever they throw back at me, I have to be prepared for. And when you first get started, you're screaming into literally the ether because no one's there.
Right. That's almost like scarier than doing stand up to me because there's not the immediate feedback where you know if it like at least with stand up when it's bad, you know, like immediately you're like, oh God, that was bad. I'm not doing that again.
I mean, think about it. What's the worst response as a stand up comic can get? Is fucking silence.
Oh my
if
God,
you get
dude.
booed, right? That's at least something.
Yeah, that makes you kind of happy.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I got them angry at least.
Yeah. Oh, they're fucking pissed.
That's a reaction. I just got to get a different reaction.
No. It's literally the second that they boo, right? It was like, okay, at least you heard me, right? Yeah. If you get silence, then you're like, oh, my favorite ones.
It hurts.
Favorite ones are whenever a comic says something, get silence. I've been like, oh, is that too much for you? It's like, no, it wasn't anything.
No.
It's.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I relish myself as a purveyor of really bad comedy.
Yeah.
I kind of love it. I love. You know what? Hey, part of Kill Tony. If you were to ask me, hey, what are your hobbies? I do kind of get off on watching comics bomb.
Yeah.
There's something about it. There's something about a comic going up there with like, this is the joke. This is gonna fucking hit them, and then it's a swing and a miss. Oh, I'm gonna.
Well, and that shows some people are such lunatics. You're like, God damn.
Oh man, there's something about like a weird Thanos level balancing where I'm all like, yeah, you fucking thought. And then you're watching these newer comics coming in with this presence of mind. I'm not going to call them crowd work comics because they're not exactly, but like guys like I watched Casey Rocket, an Austin comic. For those who don't know, and he's kind of real controversial out over there because he doesn't really do
comedy.
Like exactly, it's not comedy in the way.
He just like pulls sauce packets out of his pockets. You're like, wait a minute.
He's all like, hold on, and then he pulls out a picture of Grimace at the Berlin Wall, and then he puts it, that's for you, and then he starts moving around. He's like, I gotta move in case the satellites don't get me and stuff. And the thing is that. For those who are saying like, well, that's not really stand-up comedy, I'm like, yeah, it is a performance.
Yeah, exactly. And like he doesn't need anything that we don't need. He just needs a microphone and a stage.
And when was the last time you were that confident?
Yeah,
you know, on something so left field.
Yeah, and he crushes a lot.
Oh, and he's got a huge following of people and comedians. When we were there in Austin, like the amount of people who were talking shit and they were just saying like, that's not fucking real. That's not exactly it. And it's kind of like, but I mean, if it works,
that's what you got to say. It's like, you're not in charge. He has an audience and you don't. So fuck you.
Yeah.
Right.
I've opened up for Therapy Gecko.
Really?
I have friends who have opened up for Therapy Gecko.
He's got a following, I'm sure.
He's following, and
does he like do like a set?
He'll
in Gecko. He doesn't. You're not opening for like him, just like sitting there doing therapy stuff. He does. It
eventually gets to that. point.
Okay, interesting.
But he does talk. And it's kind of strange in that level of like, hey, you guys wanted to be a part of a comedy boom. Guess what? Now comedy's evolved, right? Think about how many old comedians you've worked with and you're meeting, in the 5 years you've been doing
we're
this
just
shit.
becoming that.
Yeah. The ones who are like, I'm never going to touch TikTok. TikTok's fucking bullshit. I don't ever want it. And it's kind of like, I get it.
Yeah.
Not a fan of it either.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, it's kind of just like everything else. It's just another Vine or whatever that thing was called.
What it is.
Yeah.
And it turns into like one of the guys who was a big surprise was Che Durena, the guy who closes off all of his TikToks with "Follow me, you fucking idiots."
Sure.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Pro guy, right? He's a stand-up comic before he got famous off of that shit.
Sure.
And so we're doing a weekend at Kimmel's in Vegas, and everybody I told like, oh yeah, I'm with Che. And they were like, he's a comic. And then they would watch him pull out his set. And guy's got a fucking strong set.
Yeah. I mean, if he's been doing it a while, he should,
It's just the change of the game, man. So
yeah. I mean, if you can find like some sort of, I'm just going to call it a gimmick for lack of a better word, but something like online that makes you go viral. That's like the number one most useful thing you could have right now.
If you're
As a
comfortable
tool.
doing it,
Yeah.
too, I think that's kind of the big.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
It's a skill being able to put a camera in your own face and commit to it and be like, "What's up, world?"
You are the most self-important person.
Dude, you know who's good at it is fucking OJ Simpson.
Oh yeah. Oh, my
Hello,
God.
Twitter world. Like, just imagine being him and being like, I should share my opinions about what's going on right
And the
now.
comment section always goes wild. Like
It's just
he
like
knows
knives,
it does.
Knife emojis.
Yeah. And everyone's like, "Oh, this man's killing it." And I'm just like,
So funny, dude.
oh man.
It's so funny.
Him. I've gotten into Kurt Angle's. This is a pro wrestler, and all he does is it's a boomer, kind of coming in and then shitting on all the things that everybody holds dear in the TikTok world.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking strange. Just like I said, you say it's a whole entire gimmick, and it kind of is. but
I don't know what else to call it, but it's going viral for not your stand up.
Yeah.
So it's something else.
Well,
but like sometimes it's just showing off your personality.
Well, when was the last time you saw a stand-up clip that made you a fan of a comic?
Yeah, I don't know. It happens every now and then.
You know, the first one I ever saw was off of a I want to say it was like a Daily Motion feed or like a College Humor.
Say the guy who did that mainly for me in the last year was Jeff Asmus. I saw like 2 or 3 of his clips. I was like, this guy's pretty fucking good.
The first one for me was actually Louis C.K.'s.
Oh, damn.
When he did the why bit, where he talked about, his kid says why all the time. And then he was just all like, oh, when I become a parent, I will answer all of my kids' questions.
Yeah.
And then your kid starts, why? And I don't fucking know why. And it's like, oh, it's just a whole entire bit. And I watched that before I ever became a stand-up comic.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like, in my brain, the first time I ever became a fan of a comic because of a clip that just ended up online.
Yeah, interesting.
And then now you're thinking about all of these 40, 50, 60-year-olds, who they're not going to exactly go to the clubs all the time.
Yeah.
They're not hanging out at your open mic spots. They're not hanging out at the cool spots. They're showing up at Stir Crazy. They're showing up at House of Comedy. They're showing up at all these other clubs where they just know comedy is going to happen.
Right.
And then that's your moment.
Yeah.
And you have to take that little moment that you're in front of them. And now you got to mass produce that online and then throw that up there. And that's the weirdest thing about cooking videos is that it all looks delicious, but you haven't tasted them.
Right. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
You fucking know.
They're good at making food that looks good.
Yeah. And now when you're up on stage, you have to commit to all those little moments, those little gimmicks, those little everything else out there just so you can be always an advertisement for yourself. Oh, dude. It's exhausting to be a comic and a creator at this time.
Yeah, and it's just becoming more and more. You have to like put out clips and
whatever. I mean, I've made a business outside of stand up where I help moderate and other people's social medias because they get so bored doing it.
Nice.
And not only does it help with bills and travel and everything, but it's also one of those things where I'm watching people send me their clips and then I'm seeing what's like garbage and what's not.
Yeah, and you can kind of filter it for them.
And like, I'll, hey, yeah, we'll edit up this clip. But as a comic watching this out, this is probably not the best thing. This is probably not the best representation of that joke or that story.
Yeah.
And hey, I would probably do this again, punch this up a little bit more. Yeah. And it's small little things because you're carrying bottles with you hoping that lightning will strike.
Sure.
That's the whole fucking game.
Where'd you go after El Paso?
Well, so Texas was so self-contained.
Yeah. That's why I left Oregon, dude. It's small. It was real small. No club. I was in Eugene, Oregon. You know a friend of mine, Luke Miller?
I know Luke. Yeah, I was about to message him because we're about to head over there again.
To Oregon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, with Jamal.
I think I'm going out over there with Alex Ansel, the cool.
Oh yeah, nice.
Big guy.
Yeah.
So Texas was when you were in West Texas, we only had like there was one comedy club kind of dominated the scene over there.
Yeah, that's what happens when there's one club. Dude.
Oh God, and that guy was so held the monopoly of that place. So for us to get any other stage time anywhere else, we either had to go 2 to 4 hours into New Mexico, or we'd have to go 6 to 8 hours further into Texas. So, I knew we would drive out to San Antonio, and then just for a 10-minute spot, an unpaid spot, just to try to get into the club. So once I started getting a little bit of notoriety in Texas, would just kind of tour around Texas for a while. I got my first invite to do a showcase at the store.
Nice.
And so I went to go do that, got in with Haha, which wasn't that hard. Love you, Jack, but wasn't that hard. And did a couple LA clubs, and I was eyeing that move because I was dating somebody who was going to LA too. Mm-hmm. And then I spent 1 week in Vegas, and that was it. Vegas kind of won me over. I got to see every venue had an entertainment budget, right?
Damn,
They were all paid. Okay. On top of that, shows were shorter. Mm-hmm. They were real quick to.
A lot of extra money splashing around in Vegas.
Oh, so fucking dude! I remember the first show I did in Vegas. I was featuring at a bar show, and they told me, "Yeah, you're featuring out." And I said, "Okay." And in Texas, when you feature, your feature spots are usually like 30 minutes.
Damn.
Right? So I'm so used to. I was already built.
Long shows, huh?
Yeah. So it always like host 10, feature 30, headliner would do 45 to an hour, sure. Right? Depending on them. So I was already accustomed to it. So when they told me, "Hey, yeah, you're featuring," I'll never forget. I told them like, "Okay, cool. Can you light me at like 25?"
Yeah.
And they looked at me like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "Oh, like how much time am I doing?" They're like, 15. And I was like, "Shut the fuck up." And they were like, "Okay, so we paid you." And then they gave me money, and they paid me kind of a lot. And I was like, oh, and I remember I wanted to break down crying. Like, I've been working so fucking hard. I don't know why the fuck happened. Why is this happening to me? And I was like, "Is this what's your normal base pay for a feature?" Yeah. Is that over here? And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh man,
I'm staying here.
What am I doing? Fuck yeah, dude."
Is it still like that?
Yes and no. I mean, keep in mind that shit scales.
Of course.
Because when you were going through Texas, I'm a comic who loves to talk the transparency of money. It just definitely got me into trouble.
Yeah, sure.
With a couple comics. But I like to make sure that everybody's getting the fair shake of things. Granted, if you are more talented and everything like that, and you're a little bit of a harder get, and that's what you negotiate.
Yeah, and if you draw, like what?
But if you're going to be like the host at a club, I like to let it be known, like, hey, this is how much he pays. So I'm just letting you know if you're visiting and you're trying to get that spot. So the host at the club that I was working would be Wednesday through Sunday. One show Wednesday, one show Thursday, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday. Yeah, 7 shows. 7 shows, you got paid $150 at tops. Yeah. Right. They wound up cutting it down to I think 120. Yeah. And then they got rid of Wednesdays, and then I heard it was just a straight $100.
Sure.
And that was for host spot. Now the thing is, as much that was the highest paid gig,
right?
And that was the highest paid gig as a local. You couldn't get paid anything more unless you threw your own bar show, unless you produce something else out of there. I learned like when you move to Vegas, feature pay for like a 15-minute spot was like $75.
Sure.
And if you got in with the clubs, it was like $75-$80, but you got the whole week and they paid for your hotel.
Nice. Yeah, that's not bad.
They give you like meal vouchers and everything just so, you had something. Plus you can make merch off of that. And where I'm from, hosts weren't allowed to sell merch. You weren't allowed to have any supplemental anything. This is it. On top of that, that kind of kills your weekend. You can't really do anything, with a 7:00 show and then a 7:30 show and then a 9:30 show.
Yeah.
By the time your night starts, you get there about 6:30. You're there all freaking night to make $30 a show.
Maybe, it's less than minimum wage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just there. And so when I moved out to Vegas, it started being like, okay, base pay for like a 15-minute spot was like $50, right? I'd say about at the low end, it's the smaller productions, maybe like 30, but they'd be like $50 spots, and they didn't force you to be there the entire night.
Sure.
There was a group of people called the Fun Day Crew that you would go over there, and it'd be like an open mic, but we'd feature one comic, so we'd be featuring you. and you can walk in at any point of the show,
Do
bang
your
out 15
spot,
minutes, here's
yeah.
your money, goodbye.
Gotta love that.
And then you can go pick up another show.
Yeah. It's the
And
best.
so it turned into, because Vegas became such a turn and burn club, like city club scene, where you come in, do your time. All right, get the fuck out. We have to clean the room. We have another show after this, right? The casinos were really, really big on like, get them in, get them back out on the floor.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you pick up spots at casinos?
Yeah, yeah,
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
So like, my home club, as of right now over there, is the LA Comedy Club inside the Stratosphere.
Sure.
They're like definitely the most coolest homey vibes.
Hell yeah.
You know, everybody there is family. They have 3 shows every day, sometimes 4 on Saturdays. So you walk in, it's a 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock. On Fridays or Saturdays, sometimes they'll have a midnight.
Damn.
And so you can stay there all freaking day.
Yeah, and just get spots in.
Sometimes just get the fucking bookings in, but they're so quick about like, okay, you're the host. You're going up there, you're doing anywhere 7 to 12, maybe 15, depending on the show. And then feature, 15, 20, get the fuck out. And then headliner's going to do 35, maybe 40 minutes, and then get the
They're
fuck out.
quick shows.
They're
Hell yeah.
super
I like that, though. People's attention spans are not what they used to be, dude.
No.
A lot of times, by the time an hour's up, people are ready to go.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, in a Vegas setting, right, this is like the only place that they can actually sit down without gaming.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know?
That's smart.
And so
Captive
it's like,
audience, kind of.
like they're sitting down, and it's because it is a tourist destination. A lot of these people, it's their first time ever going to a comedy club,
Yeah, interesting.
so they have to kind of be taught that. So we're kind of like ground zero for like people who want to get drunk, get kicked out of clubs, and it's rowdy, but we have to keep it going. We have to keep it going. We have to keep it going.
Yeah.
And then we're putting up, strong comics who are up there who had either their heyday, right,
Sure.
or coming down and just working on stuff, and then they have to just put it up with some of the most difficult, judgy, most disinterested crowds.
That's
who
awesome.
paid money to be there.
That's fun.
So
It's a recipe for disaster.
oh man, but it feels. I've always said that to younger comics. Like, if you ever feel like you have outgrown your scene, cool, travel.
Yeah, get out.
Get
Yeah.
out. Go try another mic.
Move
another
or
place.
travel.
Yeah, just,
But honestly, moving's great too.
yeah, and you'll see exactly how. And it isn't, like I said, comedy's not competition, but
It kind of is.
it's just more to see, like, if you're walking in and you're kind of like, oh yeah, we can handle.
Yeah.
This is not a problem.
Yeah, comedy's not a competition, but it matters if you do better than other people.
I mean, I like to think of it as okay, you guys are trusting me with 15 minutes of right in the middle spot. Okay, cool. Your guy with the biggest credits, the guy who's got the Comedy Central Presents and the specials out and everything is coming up after me. Okay, cool. I have 15 minutes to prove to you guys that you can bring me back.
You're right.
And that's my job security.
Yep.
I'm not trying to go for blood. I've had headliners get mad where they're kind of like, "What the fuck, dude?" Like,
Yeah.
fucking-
You kind of buried them.
like, why'd you fucking do that to
You
them?
brought your A game tonight, huh?
And I'm all like, "Look, sir, I'm just really happy to be here."
Yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? That crushed so hard you can't perform right now. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm never intimidated by somebody being good. I'd always rather from someone who is great than bombed. Like I'm confident enough. I don't think a crowd's gonna think I'm not funny just because they thought someone else is funny.
I think that's kind of.
I think it's possible, but it's never my assumption that that's gonna happen. Like
it's an evolution of innate comedy insecurity. 'Cause
Yeah.
we're already insecure going up there, right? We just kind of put up all of our insecurities up there that would make it manageable.
yeah,
But there have been fucking headliners who go up there and they're, hello, I'm just here for my paycheck. I gotta come in here and get that. And the hungrier comics, like me, who I'd rather come in, things have been good for me. But now that I'm like starting to expand, it's kind of like, okay, cool. I'm not trying to fucking wave my dick around up on stage here. I'm just trying to say, hey, you guys can use me
right.
on your lineups on a better, healthier rotation. And I think that's what a lot of comics, because of that weird insecurity that sometimes festers up into like false self-importance.
Yes,
It's like, just you know,
Yeah, sometimes.
you go in there being like, I don't know if you guys know, but I have a comedy cube out, and if you've ever seen those are fucking easiest $500 I've ever made in my fucking life. So I'll call it. They don't make them anymore. There was a company out in LA that would pick comics, and it was almost like a cattle call. And they give you anywhere like $200, $500, and you would go over there, and they would just film specials. Every fucking comedian would claim that they would have a Funny Media Group Comedy Cube special.
Yeah.
And you could probably look up all, like everybody on the West Coast had one.
Sure.
And they're well shot, but it was literally a casting call crowd, an audience who was like forced to be there for like 8 hours.
Damn.
And you would go up there. Some of the comics would have like 30-minute specials. They would shop around. By the time I got there, they were like, okay, we have 9 comedians. Everybody's doing 10 minutes.
You're like, I'm getting a 10-minute video right now.
I'm like, I'm getting a 10-minute. You guys are paying me to do this. And okay, make sure you're not wearing any branded shirts, no nothing, that stuff. Avoid any of the crowd work because we don't have any cameras really facing the crowd. Just go up there and have fun. And these were like a collection of some of the most subpar fucking comics. Like comics who are like doing it for a year, you know, would get one. They'd get paid, but they'd have that video and they'd shop that around. And don't get me wrong, there were strong comics who got theirs, you know, like I know Greg Wilson has one of his and his was pretty fun. But like you'd see all of these, and they were just fucking handing them out.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just like nothing. So that's why when it turns into you, comedian who is trying to get more work, just be cool.
Yeah.
Support the club. Come out to the shows. Someone will hand you money if you're just chill. And you know, if you're able to just hold your time on stage, not be a fucking nuisance.
Yeah. It's funny how important being likable is in comedy.
Dude,
Are you easy to get along with? Could I be in a car with you for 3 hours? That matters.
that is a huge.
It matters a lot.
I can hold my own on stage with many comedians, and you know, it's been a good career, but because of that same deal about being in the car with them for multiple hours has caused so much fucking being like, you know what? That was a great show. I fucking hate that person. Like, I genuinely dislike that person. And so,
how good are you at hanging out with the most terrible people you know?
Oh my God. And I get it. You know, most everybody can be chill. I've hung out with the comics who have nothing to say and they just fucking, you know, smoke so much weed they just sleep through the entire drive. Cool. That's one thing. But then there are those.
Yeah, those are the easy ones.
Oh God. Then there's those ones who just, you know, complain. How come I'm not getting booked? How come I'm not getting fucking where I'm supposed to be getting? The ones who run bits, right? And
Oh my God.
who look, you can run bits with comedians. Ask for fucking permission first. It's something Brett Ernst at the LA Comedy Club has told us, like, hey, if you're gonna run a bit by me, let me know. So I'm gonna shift myself in the mindset, because if it sounds like you're just telling jokes to me,
I'm gonna just get furious.
I will fucking stab you. Dude.
It's so horrible.
Oh, it's the fucking worst, dude. Yeah.
You have to at least be like, hey, this is like a premise that I'm working on.
Yeah, where would you guys go with this? I have this thought process, and then just, you know, it's I did it once on accident, and that's how I know. I went up to a group of people, and I was like, okay, real quick, were there other things to do on Epstein's Island? And then they were like,
probably was.
And I was like, great. And then I went up on stage, and I was like, there were probably other things to do in Epstein. And then they got mad. They're like, dude, did you just fucking run a bit by us? Oh, sorry.
Kind of, but also, like, if you just thought of it.
Yeah. Went up on stage with it, and you know what? It bombed, and that's on you. That's on you guys. That was technically your fault. We all
That shouldn't have bombed. There were a lot of other fun things to do on the island. Way more than just pedophilia.
Jet ski. Oh my God. Just a miniature golf course. There's a kid arcade, because we got to keep them entertained.
Yeah, it's probably helicopters.
Yeah, let's get helicopter trips and tours all around over there, and then just kind of like, hey, welcome to the island. everything you can go to except that little shadowy part over there.
Yeah. Avoid the shallow graves.
Oh man.
You have any plans for your next year? Big plans for the next year of your comedy career?
So this year has been last year was kind of like a really good year, so I got to figure out how am I going to top that. Last year I got my first TV credit. I'm on a show called Laugh After Dark. It's on Amazon
I've
Prime.
heard of Laugh After Dark.
Yeah, they were kind enough to offer me. I was the very, very first Vegas comedian that they ever showcased on there on the first episode, and then it was nonstop Vegas comics.
You're like,
And I was all like, well, I was the first. And then I was the first, pretty much the first guy out of El Paso outside of Freddie Soto to have that, and then Ryan Stout too. Very funny guy. So I had that, and then the OnlyFans deal.
yeah, that's awesome.
Up,
I remember that. That was the first thing I ever learned about you.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was
waiting for you to come up, and Jesse Evers was like, he has an OnlyFans special. I was like, oh, what?
and I know I get a lot of flack and shit for like, well, was it a special? Like we went over there and we shot like fucking, the four of us all shot, everything with the OnlyFans logo in the background, the LMAOF, everything, the backdrop, and we shot everything. And then what they released was an episode called LMAOF where they took like 5 minutes from that. The idea was they wanted to be able to keep, with all of the things we said on our sets, and then release them as clips, kind of like what Don't Tell is doing, and kind of, and which is kind of going to be the market. That's going to be the standard.
You realize that's the future. It's like eventually your first special won't be a special. It'll be all released as clips. And your first special will be your second special or whatever.
And I think I'm not going to say that that's the dumbest thing to do, but it is kind of good that they're doing it. We don't have to, you're not worried about, you just don't have to be so good that Laugh After Dark or Don't Tell Comedy or Dry Bar, is starting to pay attention or start noticing, so you can start submitting to them and they'll take care of that. So that means this year, after having done all that, either turns into doing one of those specials, where that's the thing that gets cut out. Personally, because of writing all of that, and then the competition and everything, I think this is a time right now where I kind of want to be able to help out my scene a little bit more.
That's awesome.
I think I want to be able to produce a few shows that will welcome comics coming down over there. Get you into.
I'm trying to get up there, dude.
Because I understand you've fuck, dude. If you're a comic and you're watching this, think about a scene where it's nothing but open mics and no showcases.
That's where I started, dude. People here don't get it, dude. My first year of comedy, no book shows, just dog shit, no club shows, no club mics, just dog shit open mics for a year.
Yeah.
People get booked here like a month in, and they're like, oh, comedy's so fun. I'm like, God, I fucking hate you.
It's so, you don't know it until you've met comics who've come from those scenes. You have comedy clubs who are willing to invest in third-party shows, right? Who are willing to do, fun shit with you.
Sure.
And go and support those and do that and everything like that. If you are pissed off of your comedy scene, fucking make it better. So I'm probably gonna I think that's the main goal right now, is I'm gonna start a few more rooms out over there.
Awesome.
Make sure to get some comics.
That's one of my goals too. Start I just switched my open mic to a book show because it was just there was kids there every week. I was like, let's just take it down to twice a month, and when we are having comedy, be like, you can't bring your kids in.
Yeah.
Or like, we're not adjusting the comics material. I just was so tired of telling comics like, hey, there's kids in here. Can you please be cool?
Even if you turned it around and you said, the first open mic I ever went to in Vegas when I first moved out over there, and they were introducing me to the comedians. They took me to a booked open mic. It was pre-slotted, like you have to go over there and you had to get okayed.
Yeah.
And it was called the friendliest mic.
Sure.
Because
like
it was
that.
clean.
Yeah.
It was, everybody had to go up there and work clean.
Yeah.
And
Good for you.
here's a good little fucking sound bite for you guys. All right. So we go in there and it's a clean open mic. the very first comic that goes up on stage was he's a viral sensation. You guys, every comedian knows this guy. Did you ever watch that clip about a guy running to the stage and they get kicked in the chest? Right? And it was a fucking mic. There's a guy named Raid Zone.
Okay.
Gets fucking planted, just kicked in the chest, gets knocked out because it was like a heckler gets knocked out. He was actually a comic. He's being a complete piece of shit. Raid, we're friends. You and I, we've been, but you know that's what you got popular for. And he was the first comic I saw go up at this clean mic, and he goes up there with the backpack, and he has like one of those old like accountant visors, right? Yeah. And older man walks up there on stage, and in this little kid's backpack, he pulls out a plastic rake, like a toy little rake, and he's like pretending to go on the floor, and he's all like, "This is so you can teach the little Mexicans." And they're like, "What the fuck?" Dude? Like, and then he's all like, "Or you can shove it up your ass and jack off with it." And then we're like, "Raid, this is a clean open mic." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Stick it in your pooper."
Yeah, I guess that's.
I mean, okay.
Kind of.
That's
Almost.
That's
tried.
So here's the thing. It's the funniest thing he's ever done. That's the funniest thing I've ever seen him do. But clean comedy shows can fucking work.
Yeah.
You know, it's they're out there.
Yeah.
But you got to definitely sift through the fucking weirdos.
Some people, that's what they really want. It's so weird to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. You know, everybody should be different, but it's just so not my taste usually in comedy.
It's the weird thing. I would definitely leave it. I don't think clean comedians should run clean shows. I think clean business owners should run clean shows.
Yeah.
And then have them moderate that. I think comedians, even to the cleanest comedians I know, Brian Regan is a weird figure in my life. Cleanest comic you guys know. Right.
So funny, though.
So fucking smart. So fucking funny. I've been drunk with this man multiple times.
Yeah, I've heard other comics, like big time comics, tell this same story.
And the things that come out of his fucking mouth.
Yeah.
He came to my birthday party. I was doing a show, and this is how weird Vegas is. I was doing a show at a weird pool hall on Fremont Street, and all the comics were just getting wasted. That was my goal, was to have just a bunch of drunk comics, and then we sold tickets, and we had a crowd.
Sure.
And we had a guy outside who was barking to get people in. You might fucking know him because he was definitely like Oregon, Washington based. His name was Skippy Sprinkles. Fucking.
I would have known him. I would have remembered that name.
He's a sweetheart, but he's a slow man. He's a very slow man. And he's barking to get people in.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Brian Regan's walking down the street with his wife, and he's like, "Hey," doesn't know who he is. And he's like, "Hey, do you like comedy?" And it's like,
sure.
Brian fucking Regan, right? But Brian's already been drinking. He's like, "All right, sure." He walks in. The other comics all start getting alarmed, and they're like, "Oh, fuck, Brian Regan's here." And they run to the green room, and they're like, "Not to freak you guys out, but Brian Regan's here. He's hanging out at the back of the bar." And like Skippy Sprinkles didn't know who the fuck he is and just walked him in. He paid cover.
That's so fucking funny.
But most of the comics are shit-faced.
Yeah.
Everybody's going up there. They're doing their fucking worst. At the time, I had this joke. My closer joke was about abortion, because why wouldn't it be? And I was talking about abortion, saying like, "Oh, you know, the sign language for abortion is this." Right? And super cheap. Totally look it up.
I love that good act out.
I did my research. So just this, grab, throw. And then alternatively, you can also do this, which is also abortion, right? And I did that closer. As soon as it was done, Brian Regan has a shot for me. And I've met him like once before, but I doubt he remembers who the fuck I am.
Sure.
Hands me a shot, and he says, "You know, that abortion joke reminds me a lot of my donut joke." And he just left it at that. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Right?
You're like, I don't know your catalog that well.
He's just all like, "Just saying, they end the same. And I was like, you don't have an abortion. You're the cleanest fucking How does donuts have anything to do with abortion? He just confused the fuck out of me. And then he was just like, these motherfuckers don't get comedy. And he just kept feeding me shots. And I just got fucking wasted with Brian Regan.
That's the coolest.
Have clean comedy shows run by fucking not comics.
Hell yeah.
It's the smartest fucking thing to do. Yeah. Dude.
You travel a lot. How much do you find you have to adjust your material for like different regions of the country?
I'm lucky. I'm lucky in the sense that my style of comedy is story based.
Yeah.
And I got really good at learning how to tell stories. I will tell you, and kind of, I guess, advise for younger comics.
Yeah.
That if you're planning on being a storyteller comic, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's way
so
harder.
hard. I think people know that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of them come up there and they're like, oh, I'm fucking telling the story about this one time I got fucked over at Trader Joe's. And you're like,
No, you got to add a lot of punchlines to your story. It's so hard because it's like not everything. It's so hard to just think of enough punchlines to go in there. You're like, there's so much story has to go before you get to the funny parts.
It's hooks. You got to keep them engaged in the conversation. You got to keep them engaged in the story. You got to keep them engaged in everything. So I'm lucky that whenever I travel, I learned how to, be able to adapt to that. I will say, because where I started from, it was a lot of Latino. It was a very Latino dominated scene. The fact that every comedian that I started with was doing, tortillas and fucking, teen pregnancy. And it was the same, same songs that everybody sang. And, I tried really hard, like years, like almost felt like I lost years in comedy terms of just like not getting booked because I didn't do that shit.
Interesting.
And
if it's not what you want to do, then it's
and
worth it to not get booked for that.
But that's kind of the weird part because that's, like I said, that kind of leads you to getting bitter. It kind of leads you to getting into like...
It does, yeah, I hear you.
But the thing is that when you start getting really good at that, when you start getting really good at this other route, and you start traveling, like I was bringing up, you start traveling, you start realizing that, oh, fuck, hey, maybe... If I'm telling everybody, hey, you guys know how Mexicans do, and I'm in fucking Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, no, we don't.
We don't.
There's not any here.
Right. And then guess what? Next time you wind up perpetuating that stereotype about that specific ethnicity, guess what that audience is going to attribute that to? I get it. I'm on this podcast wearing a fucking Selena shirt. I understand the irony. But I worked way too hard to not do that shit. I wanted to not do that shit. I've taken comics with me on the road who do, and then they paint themselves in a fucking corner, and it's just not. So I think when you start adapting, it's honestly. You've heard it where comics go over there, and I got to learn what's happening in the city. I got to learn
a little bit,
shit, right? If you don't want to ever talk to the audience, do that. Me, I kind of like to ask, like, okay, so hey, I'm new here. What's the thing I should be doing?
Sure,
and then they'll say, hey, you should. Every fucking time, it's always go to a strip club. Every city. They can name strip clubs, and then guess what?
Tits are awesome, dude. What can I say?
But guess what happens as a comic? Now I have fucking 30 minutes about strip clubs with an interchangeable name.
Yeah.
So I'm turning around like, so I'm hanging at Zebras. And I'm like, yeah, that's ours. I'm like, yeah. And the stripper looked like my 6th grade teacher. Yeah. Right. In Pinecrest. And then, yeah, that's us too. It's almost like every rock band that does the whole entire.
Yeah.
What's going on? Atlanta.
I went to the strip club in Eugene before I left with some comics, and there's this guy there. Every time the stripper took her bra off, he would double fist pump and like look around to like celebrate with us.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I was like, dude, she's gonna take it off. You don't need to celebrate every time.
Holy
just like
shit.
Yeah.
I think that's just it. It's like
cute though in a weird way.
I think for the sake of comedy purposes, like fucking tell that story, fucking
Right.
Oh
yeah.
man.
I had an idea for a podcast where I had different comedian interview a different stripper every week and talk about the similarities between comedy and stripping. Because there are kind of a lot. It's like they're both nighttime entertainment that are like you start at the very bottom. Like, can you imagine like what like the beginning of stripping must looks like? They're like, hey, show up at 5 p.m. There's going to be one person here that's not tipping. You get to dance for them.
Imagine being the early crowd. That's the other thing too. Look, I've taken some of those gigs, like whether like strip clubs will hire comics.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've always wondered if that was a thing or not.
Oh, man.
Because it kind of makes sense, but it just kind of doesn't too. Kind of like, imagine like, people are there for tits, and a comic comes out. They're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, it was not a great time.
I'm here to get hard.
Yeah, it was. They booked me on a fucking like 7 p.m. on a Sunday, you know, like, and then they were like, "Hey, so you're gonna come out after this girl. You're gonna do like 10 minutes and get off stage, and then the next hour." We're going to bring you back and you're going to do another 10 minutes. And then we're going to do that for 3 hours.
Sounds pretty good,
right?
actually.
And I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, what time do you guys want me to be there? And they're like, could you get here like at 4 or 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
And I was like, sure. And so we get there early. And they even gave me like unlimited guest pass. You get fucking all you can drink. Bring your friends. We want, you know.
Yeah.
So a few of the comics came by and they were taking advantage of all the drinking and everything like that, watching a couple of strippers. But the place is dead as fuck. It's just my friends. It's my friends and a couple very disinterested strippers.
Which is just the worst kind of stripper.
And they're just not there. And so I'm like staying in contact. I'm staying like sober because I'm just kind of like, I don't get too fucking plastered just yet. It's a decent payday. So I'm just going to kind of hang out. And then a stripper goes out there and he said, oh, well, whenever she comes up, like, they let the couple businesses know that she comes up and people come around from businesses next door to watch her perform. So they're like, she'll be up in like 30 minutes. And this girl came out in skates and then like had pyro and shit and everything, like lit a fire with her pussy.
What?
Like, fucking rolled on her back. And, like did the fucking, I don't know if it's butane or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then like hovered a flame over her pussy for like a second. And then it was like crazy. And then the DJ in the booth was like, I was like, oh, no intro, no nothing. And I just walked out there with a microphone like, wow, that was crazy.
Yeah, you got to know how to riff in those moments. Oh. That's why you got to know how to riff, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know those comics that like can't? They're like have to say their script. And you're like, say something else sometimes. Like, I used to be that pretty bad, but I've gotten better.
I think that's just what it is. It's fucking adaptability. It's like you never know what show you're going to get on. You never know what the crowd's going to be. Last night at Stir Crazy, we did the second show, and there was a group. There was these 3 girls who. There's one thing when there's like, if you're not a comic, you probably don't know the difference. But like, there's the hecklers,
right,
and then there's the ones who are enjoying the show too much,
right.
You know, and they're laughing, but they're like oh
they're both hecklers, but one is like aggressive or whatever.
And there's like one that kind of, I'm not gonna say hecklers do not help the show, but they're like enjoying where they laugh and they close off like, haha, you're so right.
Right. It's not hostile.
Yeah. So you still want to keep them through the show.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not really harming
anybody. You can't get mad at those people. The audience will turn on you fast.
They like you.
They're like, they like you, dude. What are you doing?
They're on your fucking side. Why are you so mad? And
it's so infuriating, though.
Right? Because you're just kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah, thanks, whatever. And they were doing that for the host and the 2 guest spots, and they were going back and forth. And I know I'm a lot of energy on stage, so I started coming and I started saying shit, and they were snapping back at me and they were fucking throwing shit back. They were just fucking like, oh my god, fucking know. And I was like, oh my god. And I think I said something like, are these lips as loose as these lips? Whatever, right? And I was doing my merch pitch at the end of the set, and she walked like up on stage, like she was about to fucking walk up on stage.
Whoa.
And then she was like, no. It's like, I love you. I just think that's fucking great.
Aww.
And I was all like, okay, cool. And then I had to waste a minute or two
addressing
to not
it.
have her get kicked out
right
of the show because she's being supportive.
She's trying to get kicked out.
and like the club, and she's like enjoying it, and she has a little group over there, and I can see, the staff kind of like, do we ask her to leave? Do we ask her on that shit? And then you as a comic have to be good enough to be like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
When you're up on stage, you're in control.
Right.
You kind of have to control how big the fire is going to get, how low it's going to fucking get. If they're going to be aggressive towards you, you got to make sure that they're not going to be aggressive to the rest of the show.
Absolutely.
You got to make sure that, you hated me. That hate's going to leave as soon as I get off stage.
Yeah, you got to make sure for sure they're not doing that for the headline or if they're doing it for you.
Oh my God.
Even if you have to say like, hey, it's okay that we had this exchange. Please don't do this for my friend who's about to come out.
At the end of the show, you guys can all sock me in the face. Here's a merch pitch. Fucking. And then, yeah. Dude, yeah. I think one of the most inventive merch pitches was they hated this black comic that was up on stage because he was he was very, very racist to the white crowd that was there.
Oh, yeah. White people do not like that.
And he was just, it would have been one thing if it was funny, but he was just accusing them all.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of that.
I bet you fuck it. And I was like, hey, chill, dude.
Yeah.
Like, they're
gonna now.
Yeah. And at the end of the set, he was all like, I was like, I don't have merch, but for $100, I'll let you call me the N-word.
Jesus Christ.
One person I've seen buy that shit. And it was, I'm not going to lie, it was one of those like, man, capitalism, dude. Like,
it's undefeated. He's like, do I get to take a video? What do I get for this $100?
And I was like, this guy hated you so much. And he's like, you know what, man? Fucking you. And then I was like, God damn. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep. Be adaptable, comics. Be adaptable. That's
all right, dude. We're coming up on an hour. Plug your social media for me, man.
So everything is branded. So at Adam J. Dominguez on everything. That includes the OnlyFans too. We've got a bunch of content that goes up on everything. And then we've got the My Morning Coffees at noon, which is like my 3 times a week daily dose of autistic as fuck thoughts, which are just a minute randomly. And we've got those coming out. Tour dates are starting to grow and everything, so usually stay tuned and all that stuff. And then merch store would be kicking up in mid-February. You guys can pick up all of the Adam designed art.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking, it's...
Are you still doing the custom drawn hats?
We are.
Dude, somebody like, I forget who, somebody brought that up to me and I was like, Adam Dominguez. They're like, yeah, I do. I was like, I imagine there's only one person doing custom drawn hats. So I knew it was the same guy when he brought it up.
Jamar Neighbors said it was a great fucking idea. And that guy sells paintings on stage. And he was all like, that's fucking great.
No, unique merch is good.
It's
period.
Give them something to remember you by. Find everything on the socials. And then, dude, that's fucking fun.
This is so much fun. Thanks for being here, dude.
Yeah.